Hello, my sober lovelies. Before we dive in, I'm really excited to announce my group coaching program for women is live, and you can join now. So excited for this because let's be real here. Quitting drinking isn't just about saying no to the glass of wine or booze. It's about what comes after. All the fear, the boredom, the late night anxiety, and the stories you've been telling yourself for years. And that's where my Rewired Sober group coaching program for women comes in. It's only $247. I'm being totally transparent on the price. It's for 3 months, and you'll learn how to shift your mindset, build habits that actually stick, and question the core beliefs that have been keeping you stuck, and find healthier ways to deal with that loneliness and that now what feeling. The best part is you don't have to do it alone. We'll have live group coaching sessions weekly, and there'll be a bunch of women walking through it with you. It's not another cookie cutter sobriety program for mommy bloggers. It's neuroscience meets real life, and it's designed for women to help you not just stay sober, but actually feel good living sober. You can join anytime, and I'd love to see you on the inside. So start today, get instant access. The link's in the show notes. Welcome to Rewired Sober, the podcast where we unpack what it really takes to rewire your brain after alcohol. Hi, I'm your host, Kate Vitella, a registered nurse, board certified in mental health and addiction, sober since 2018, and a coach who blends neuroscience, lived experience, and real talk to help women break the shame spiral and rebuild their thinking with tools like journaling, humor, and honest conversation. This isn't surface level sobriety. This is where the healing gets deep, grounded, and unapologetically honest. So let's get into it. Welcome back. This is just me, myself, and I for another solo episode here. But something I thought was important to talk about, mostly because I came across this in my own daily habits. I want to talk about procrastination, and particularly in sobriety. I have sitting underneath me a perfectly good computer, which I have been procrastinating firing up because I don't want to have to deal with uploading all of my apps and my stuff and my passwords. I don't want to have to deal with, reprogramming it, fumbling around, trying to find the keys. So I have let this new computer sit here and collect dust, somewhat out of fear of failing, my, fear of tech, somewhat out of fear of change. And I can't help but think that some of this comes from my experience in sobriety and recovery. I'm just so exhausted of failing, and I don't have the bandwidth to keep failing sometimes. Now, sometimes I do. But so I'm digging into the science of this here because I often see this with my clients in early sobriety. Now, don't get me wrong. Everybody procrastinates. I'm not trying to say that this is just the problem of those in recovery, but I wanted to talk about the science of what's going on for us, particularly in early sobriety, when we find ourselves procrastinating a lot. Now, of course, there's more to this than just the 6 things that I'm going to list here. I mean, let's not forget, often coming into recovery, our lives are a dumpster fire. And we have overdue bills and a messy house and, a car that needs the tires rotated, a teeth cleaning that's 2 years behind. I mean, things are messy. So there's a lot to catch up on and a lot to clean up. And it can feel incredibly overwhelming. So I'm not simplifying this down to a science. It is really, early sobriety is a slow process of unpacking all the shit that's happened in active addiction, as well as reclaiming your physical space and your body and, you know, catching up on your finances and updating your resume and doing all those things that we were avoiding for so long. Another thing is recovery isn't a dopamine factory. I mean, let's face it, it's sort of a rehabilitation of your nervous system. So if you are used to chasing hits from drinking, from drama, from validation, or whatever it is you're doing, right? Sugar, doom scrolling, chaos. Of course, the slow, steady healing, it's all going to feel really boring. And I want you to look at this boredom as a portal to a way that you can improve yourself here. And really, you don't need more dopamine. You just need some discipline and some understanding, but not the punishing kind of discipline. The kind that shows up for you in your brain when your brain is like, this isn't exciting enough. I need more. Because every time that you choose sort of a long-term peace over short-term pleasure, you're building a new blueprint in your brain. And that's neuroplasticity, baby. And yes, it is frustratingly slow. But really, it's the only thing that rewires the mess that addiction left behind. So, you kind of have to ask yourself, like, do you want to feel good for 5 minutes or do you want to be free, right? For real. And freedom's not going to show up in the form of confetti. Freedom and rewiring shows up in small, boring decisions. And like I've said before, no one's going to clap for this, but it changes everything. And so let's talk about some of the reasons why I see people procrastinating in sobriety. Number one is low dopamine tolerance. So when you're drinking, your brain's used to big dopamine hits. Okay, that is not a surprise to anyone. We all throw that around, that knowledge around. We're used to fast, sort of fake rewards from alcohol. Quick drink, instant relief, instant confidence, an escape. So our brain got used to shortcuts and not really this long haul effort that we're going to put in. But over time, as we've discussed in the science of addiction, our baseline dopamine levels drop because our reward system is hijacked. So natural pleasures start to feel boring. And when you quit, your brain's like, wait, where's the easy button, right? So how does this lead to procrastination? Well, low dopamine tolerance means low motivation. Your brain isn't really lighting up over basic tasks, right? Like checking your email, doing your daily workout, paying your bills, getting your teeth cleaned. And they start to feel pointless because your reward system is still rebooting. You're craving instant gratification, not this delayed reward. And sobriety tasks, especially the things I asked my clients to do, which they procrastinate on, journaling, going to a meeting, reorganizing or cleaning up your space, your apartment. None of this gives you an immediate dopamine hit. So our brains have a tendency to stall. So procrastination becomes a way to avoid the discomfort, right? We're scrolling on Instagram, we're eating a snack, we're overthinking. You get cheap dopamine hits from that. But writing that difficult email, apologizing to a loved one, those hard things, like, yeah, no, you don't want to do that, right? And then you judge yourself for being lazy or broken. But you're not. You're just in the rewiring phase. And you're sort of chemically unmotivated at this point. And the catch 22 here is the things that actually raise your dopamine, your natural dopamine, long term, are things like exercise, creativity, consistency. And these are the exact things we procrastinate on. And why? Why? Because your brain still thinks, why would you bother unless you get an immediate reward now? So the shift here is to shrink the task, right? You need a small win. Your brain needs a small win. You're not going to clean your whole kitchen, your whole house. Just wipe down the counter, right? Habit stacking. Pair a really boring task with a mini micro hit of dopamine. A boring task, pair it with some music, pair it with sunshine, with movement. Reframe your wins, like make your progress feel rewarding. Remind yourself that progress is is part of it. It is part of the reward. And one of the ways you can do that is a checklist, right? Look at me. Check, check. Use a timer. Celebrate the small wins. Delay cheap dopamine. So get off your phone. Don't scroll on your phone until after you do at least one hard task on your to-do list. And know that it's only temporary that you're going to feel this way, right? You're not broken. You're just detoxing. You're in early sobriety. Your dopamine system is healing. So remember, you're kind of in a neurochemical drought here, and you're rebuilding that motivation system kind of from the ground up. So every small action, it's like laying a brick, right, in the foundation of how you're going to rewire sober. So number 2 that causes procrastination is our nervous systems are really dysregulated in early sobriety. And, we freeze, we overthink, we procrastinate. And if you're newly sober, or let's say you're even a few years in, your nervous system isn't just adjusting to the absence of alcohol. It's sort of relearning how to raw dog life, as we joke, how to handle life without the chemical chill pill. So your nervous system is kind of on high alert. And anything that feels like too much, even if it's your freaking grocery list, it can actually trigger like a full body shutdown. So what's actually happening is you have 2 nervous system settings. The fight or flight, which is the sympathetic nervous system, panic, anxiety, urgency, irritation. And then you have that other setting, which is to freeze or fawn. And that's more of like a dorsal vagal shutdown, the numbness, the procrastination, the fogginess. And when alcohol was your go-to for this, it sort of helped you bypass all these uncomfortable states. And without it, you're left to feel it all. And your nervous system isn't used to riding this wave. It is not used to this. And you get into this sort of overwhelm, then freeze, then procrastinate loop. So you feel overwhelmed because you have too many tasks, too many emotions, too many decisions, and your body perceives that as a threat. So you start, you feel your heart racing, you get shallow breath, you get scattered, and you freeze. You shut down. You just stare at your to-do list like it's written in ancient Greek. You scroll, you nap, you avoid, you do anything but the thing, right? And you delay the action. You procrastinate, not because you're lazy, but because your body doesn't even feel safe enough to move forward. Your nervous system is saying, like, this might cost me safety. So let's wait it out. Like, your nervous system is like, let's play dead for a little bit. And sobriety sort of amplifies this because alcohol numbed all those signals for a while. And like I said, now you feel everything. So for better or worse, your emotions return in full color. And that comes with all the good and all the bad, all the grief, all the shame, all the overstimulation. And your executive functioning in your brain is sort of on reboot at this time, I guess, if for lack of a better way to put it, like your ability to focus and plan and organize. So maybe your follow through is not awesome because it's still kind of fried, right? Your executive functioning is still a little fried in early recovery. And you're learning to self-regulate for the first time. And it's rough. It is rough. So how are we going to move the needle here? You know, name it without shaming yourself. My nervous system is overwhelmed. That's what it is. I'm not lazy. I'm in a freeze. I'm not failing. I'm just freezing for a minute. So get into your body, as they say. Feel your body. Do something that stimulates like a really strong feeling, like cold water plunge or dance like crazy or shake it out. Even doing some breath work, like I'm like moving my hands and breathing, like you guys can see me doing. What the hell? That's not even helpful. Go for a brisk walk, right? Get in your body. Try to regulate your body before you try to reason with yourself. And then try to just create like a little bit of micro safety here. One small, clear task. Clean up the little space around you, make it cozy, or use a grounding object or some calming music here. And this is another area where I repeat myself 8 million times. You can co-regulate your nervous system with a friend. Your nervous system will borrow safety from another human. So I tell my clients, send me a Voxer when you get dysregulated. Listen to it back. You know, call or reach out to a sober friend. Don't go into those bad neighborhoods in your mind alone and stay there. That's not good. That's not helpful for your nervous system. Do what you need to do to co-regulate. Sometimes that's even as simple as listening to an audiobook or a podcast, because someone else talking will help you borrow some safety or humor or normalize, and it'll help you to relax just listening to them. I literally listened to Laura McCowan's We Are the Luckiest on audiobook on repeat. And I look back now and I don't think it was because I needed to memorize what she was saying as much as it was I needed to hear her calming voice that she survived hell and wrote about it and lived to talk about it, right? And I listened to that on during times when I was so dysregulated and so anxious. And it was really helpful. And I would also say honor the freeze, right? I mean, rest on purpose. Don't guilt yourself. We say, like, when in doubt, nap it out. You know, you're pausing to regulate, and you can always move your body later, but honor this freeze for now and know that it's powerful and it's not weak to do that. So it's a nervous system protection strategy in sobriety, right? When we procrastinate, our nervous system is protecting us, and that worked until it didn't. So you're just unlearning a bit of survival, mechanisms here. Okay, that was a long number 2. Number 3, don't be mad at me. Number 3, I think what comes into play here is a bit of learned helplessness and why we procrastinate. So the psychologist Martin Seligman coined this term, and he did it with like experiments. Learned helplessness is what happens when you've tried your best to fix something. You're drinking, your anxiety, you've tried to fix your life, whatever, and it didn't work. So your brain says, why would I even try? It's not going to work. It's just going to suck. And you could become a little bit emo primo, right? Like Eeyore the donkey, like, oh, well, I guess I'm stuck. There's no point in bothering. And it's sort of like this nervous system, like belief loop. And it's kind of whispering at you like, there's no point in trying. And, I hear people say things like, I always relapse. I can't seem to stick to this. Or I don't trust myself to follow through, or I don't trust myself to stay sober. Um, you know, Even when I try to do the right thing, I still mess up. And it's that internal voice. It's more than self-doubt. It's like a learned helplessness, and it's on repeat in your head. And, low confidence means low action. You've learned that, effort doesn't always equal reward. And you've been through some really hard stuff trying to get sober, and maybe you failed. Maybe you failed at other areas of your life. So you avoid even starting because you feel like you're going to fail. Failure feels inevitable. People experience this when it comes to weight loss as well. There's an overwhelm and a shame, and that leads to shutdown overall. You get one task and your brain starts spiraling. It's like, I can't do this. It won't matter. Screw it. Right. I'll just fail. And so you end up freezing or distracting yourself, and waiting for motivation that's never going to come. And, learned helplessness also comes in the form of like, you think you're only going to take action when you feel confident. But confidence only comes after you take action, right? And sometimes it's really hard to explain that to people that they don't know when and where to start, how to start. They don't believe in themselves. So you just have to start. And that's why we use the term take messy action, because it's not going to be perfect, but that's how you will build confidence. Because, you get into this perfectionistic loop also where you avoid starting anything because, you want to know that you're going to succeed, but that bar gets so high that you just never get moving, right? So it looks like this, like you try something, it didn't work. And then you shame yourself. Oh, it's my fault. And then you have this belief like, well, I suck at this thing. Then you have no action. You take no action or you don't even try. And in your head, you're like, yeah, there's no point. I told you so. And like I said, this shows up a lot in sobriety because let's face it, we've racked up evidence that we can't, right? We've racked up some evidence that we may fail. I know I failed a million times getting sober before it actually stuck. And in that failing, I started to lose so much confidence in myself. I can even see a bit of learned helplessness here and where that case of the fuckets came in because it was like, well, I never succeed. My brain sort of got conditioned in a way to expect disappointment and your body sort of starts storing that failure. Like your body kind of stores it as emotional weight. And it's really hard to get out of that. So you got to phone a friend, dude. You got to start journaling. You got to show up for yourself and, reach out to me as your coach. Send me a Voxer, even when it feels really heavy. So the rewire here of learned helplessness and how to break it is like how to break the cycle is essentially like, let's name it, always name the pattern. I'm not lazy. This is learned helplessness. My brain is just trying to protect me from more pain because I failed a few times in the past. So let's lower the bar to entry a little bit. Um, don't try to win the whole fucking sobriety race. Just try to be sober today, right? Just try to tie your damn shoes in the morning, get out of bed, and celebrate those micro wins. Um, Rewire in a sense with reward. Like, you know, I sent a Voxer to my coach. I attended a meeting. I journaled for 3 minutes. You need neural proof that you're winning here, right? You need to prove to yourself, and you need to build evidence for safety. You need to track what happened and how you showed up anyway and how you succeeded. Even if it sucked, you did it, and you're building new neural circuitry here, a new loop. And remember, I said action always comes before confidence. When I started this podcast, and still to this day, sorry to admit, that I feel a little nervous when I hit record and I see my face on the screen. And I never really get this feeling of being in the flow and being excited and powerful by, what I'm saying until I'm in it. So if I waited to start this podcast until I felt ready, y'all wouldn't be listening to this right now because I'd be sitting here overanalyzing, feeling like the biggest failure, and I'm a big proponent of taking messy action. Sorry for episodes 1 through 30. Okay, let me go back. Okay, so number 4 here, this one's pretty obvious. We procrastinate out of fear of failure, right? If I try and fail, it'll just prove that I suck. And there's a deep-rooted belief that if we really, really, really try and still fail, that we won't survive it, that it's unbearable. So we protect ourselves. And I say we because I do it too, by avoiding something altogether. right? Just like I'm avoiding this computer who is staring at me mockingly. I'm avoiding it altogether. I'm procrastinating because it feels safer to delay than to face the shame. Now, I can tell you, you face that shame enough and you're not afraid anymore. And I hear things in sobriety like, what if I put myself out there and tell everyone I'm sober and they can see that I'm still struggling? Or I've failed before, so why would I risk? Why would I risk proving it to everyone else? What if I can't stay sober? All of this, it has a tendency to fuel our procrastination because we stall. The stakes feel too high and we avoid even setting goals so that we don't have to track if we're falling short. And I think the reframe here, and this is pretty obvious, it's the failing isn't proof that you suck. It's just data. It's just reps. It's growth. And it's proof that you showed up and tried, which is more than most people ever do. So don't let procrastination and the fear of failure keep you stuck in this illusion of potential and not actual progress. Because I rest assured you are making progress. And on the flip side, sometimes we procrastinate, number 5, out of fear of success. What? What if I do this thing and it changes everything? Success means growth, right? And growth means change. And change means uncertainty. So, fear of success, we can absolutely procrastinate because of this, because our nervous system could see success as a threat to our identity, to our relationships. I see this as a huge reason people procrastinate in sobriety. They fear actually getting and staying sober because what would it mean to change everything in your life, right? And you sort of unintentionally, but maybe intentionally, you sabotage. We all do it. We sabotage to stay safe, to stay familiar. Even if it's miserable, we will sabotage to stay the same because we are scared of success. We're often scared of growth. You know, um, I was scared if I got sober, who would I be without my party girl identity? And if I succeed in sobriety and get through this monitoring program as a nurse, like, what will people expect from me then? Will they expect more? And then how will I hide my pain going forward? Will this change who I am? Will this change my friends? What if I'm not snarky and sarcastic anymore? Oh, rest assured, you will be. So, you self sabotage sort of just before the breakthrough and you forget to follow up or finish. You drag your feet because success is scary. Succeeding in sobriety is scary as fuck. It means accountability. It means visibility. It means change. It means you got to stay the path. And so I want everyone to reframe this as I can handle being well again. I can handle the freedom of sobriety. You know, Safety can live in expansion too, not just in survival mode. I just got my lips done, like I got a lip flip, and I'm just over here just sucking shush, shush, shush. This is where I get a little thrown off. Okay, back to what I was talking about. Succeeding in sobriety can be scary. Gosh, it is the portal to freedom. And, we don't know what a true and full sober life will bring. We know we can predict what will happen if we go back to drinking. 100%. We can predict the way that it's going to go because we've been down that road before. We're going to relapse. We're going to go on a bender. We're going to disappoint our family and friends, probably call out sick to work. We're going to show up again at our women's meeting, tell everybody we have 48 hours sober. Again, we're going to disappoint. We're going to dump out all the alcohol. We're going to try again. It's like disappointing ourselves and failing in sobriety becomes sort of predictable. And succeeding and staying sober, it becomes unpredictable because we have no idea what's going to happen if we stay sober, if we stay the path. And that can be scary, right? So, number 6, I think this is kind of a summation of all of it in one, but I had to add this because this was another area where I see people. It's like this number 6 is like this inner critic paralysis. And it goes back to what I was saying, where we're used to operating in a place of survival mode. And this could be something that, this inner critic we pick up in childhood. We pick up this inner critic in order to avoid shame or criticism. And sometimes it can be helpful, but most of the time, our inner critic is keeping us stuck because it's trying to protect us. It's that little nasty voice in your head that nitpicks every freaking thing you do, even before you start. You know, your inner critic will pretend it's helping you, but it's actually running the show mostly from fear. It's trying to keep you safe. And so I see this show up for people in a lot of ways. Like, you're too behind in sobriety. It's too late, right? You're a mess. Like, who do you think you are, trying to change your life and be sober? And, your inner critic wants to keep you small because it's safe. So it fuels procrastination. And we rewrite our emails 18 million times. We avoid starting something because, nothing ever feels good enough to our inner critic. And we just wait for that magical moment when we feel worthy. But we have to remind ourselves that our inner critic is trying to keep us safe, but it's sort of using shame as a leash here. And you need to be able to remind yourself, I don't need to be perfect to take the next step. I just need to be present and I need to be willing. So if something feels emotionally risky, brain labels it unsafe, we freeze or avoid, and then the procrastination kicks in. So we've got to be able to break this cycle. And one of the ways that we do this, we first start by the body. Got to move that body. You've got to move your body with intentionality. Go for a brisk walk. Do something, dance around your house. Take a deep breath. Even if it's just box breathing for a few minutes, reground yourself. And then lower the fucking bar, folks. Just, I just need to journal for 5 minutes. I just need to go to one meeting. I need to send one email. I need to clean up one dish. That's it. Lower the bar for yourself. In AA meetings, we say easy does it. And the other thing is, I'm going to go back to is name it. Say it out loud. Name the fear. I'm scared this will change me. I'm scared of what will happen if I go all the way for sobriety. But you can hold that. You can hold that fear. And remember, always celebrate your efforts along the way. They say it's not so much about the destination as it is who you become along the path. And that relates to our nervous system. Like, dopamine isn't just about finishing the thing. It's about showing up, right? And who we become. So I hope these 6 things were helpful. And then a million times over, I want to remind myself, my clients, you, anybody that's listening, procrastination in sobriety is not laziness. It's just a protective mechanism. No matter what it is that you're fearing, whether it's failing, succeeding, being seen, being too loud, remember that your nervous system is just trying to keep you safe and it's not trying to keep you stuck. And I want you to know this. You're safe now, right? You're sober now. And you don't need to keep hitting pause on your life. You are not alone in this. Many, many of us struggle with these things. And we can prove to ourselves one small task at a time, one meeting at a time, one day at a time, that, we can overcome these things. And to that end, I'm going to close this old computer I'm using and open the new one and face my fear of Google Business Suite. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for tuning in to Rewired Sober. You can find me on my Instagram at Rewired Sober, where there are links to catch up with me and all the things I'm working on in my coaching business, or the link tree to my business directly will be in the show notes. I so appreciate you joining me on this journey, and I welcome any feedback or any topics you want to hear about, things that you're struggling with or interested in. I love you all so very much, and I'm just so enjoying doing this with you.